Welcome to Stage Explorations, where we interview the theater creatives and artists from the theater world, those who perform on stage that the audience sees, and those behind the theater stage that the audience almost never sees. I am a journalist and theater fan, Buell Brown, and today's guest is...
Hi, my name is Rob Elk. I play the character Bob Finhead in Bob's Holiday Office Party. So if you want to learn a little bit more about me or this production, watch this video.
So my first question is, when did you fall in love with theater, and why did you have to be part of the theater world?
Well, when did I fall in love with theater? When I was a kid. I remember seeing plays. I grew up in a small town in Iowa and seeing plays at the community theater. And I remember my dad was in a couple of productions. Like my dad was in Showboat, and then he and I were in The Music Man together. And so, but that I kind of just got into theater through just loving movies and seeing actors, because I kind of was influenced by, I was trying to think about like The Music Man, the movie The Music Man, and Robert Preston was a big influence on me. But I started doing, I'd love to put on little shows. I had a friend in the neighborhood and we'd put on little shows. And when I was in grade school, in third grade, I played Abraham Lincoln in a little production we had in our class. And then it seemed like I got involved with school plays. When I was in sixth grade, we all wrote our own play, all the students. And then I did plays through school, through high school, junior high, high school, and college. I never had a theater degree in college, but I was in, it seemed like a play a semester. And that's it. And then after I graduated, I went to school in a little school in college in Minnesota, St. Olaf College. And I moved to Minneapolis after that. And I had some friends of mine from college. We had a comedy act, and we moved to Minneapolis and started doing comedy up there. And it was a really vibrant scene. This was in the early 80s. I started performing first in kind of improv, sketch comedy, but I had an act that we did music and sketches. We were called Modern Entertainment. And we performed there and went to Chicago, did some shows. And from there, I started working more on stage in Minneapolis with a company in Minneapolis called Théâtre de la Jeune Lune, which is a French-American theater company. And I worked with them for a couple of years. And then I moved to New York in the 80s and did theater in New York. So I've always kind of just performed. I moved out here in 93 to Los Angeles to pursue Hollywood, whatever that would mean, doing movies or television shows or commercial acting, things like that. And I've had some friends that moved out here that I knew in New York, and we started doing shows in little stages around Los Angeles. And one of these shows we did was called The Girly Magazine Party with Jim Turner, put that together. And there was a group of us that Jim was kind of the one behind that. Other people in that were Mark Feit, Stephen Banks, Dave and Steve Higgins, Nick Bakay, Dana Gould, a lot of comedians. And that show was kind of a late night show that ran at a little theater called Theater. I'm kind of going from this question just to kind of ramble with it, if it's okay. Because I'm telling you how this kind of led to Bob's Holiday Office Party. So this show, The Girly Magazine Party, ran on Friday nights at Theater, which was a little theater in on Cahuenga, and it was, it closed and then it turned into the Greyhound bus depot, and then it got torn down and it's not there anymore. But it was a little theater, a 99-seat theater, and that show was a lot of fun, and it was very popular on Friday nights. It would kind of sell out, and people come down to see that show. It was a spoof of kind of the old Hugh Hefner's Playboy After Dark, and it had its long run. And through working at Theater, I did some other shows. I did a show called the Telethon for the Flesh-Eating Virus. And that was with some people that ended up being in the first Bob's Office Party. Joe Keys, Chris Strobeck, a lot of Minneapolis-based comedians that were out here. Joe Manjaris was in that show. And so with our relationship with Theater, and another show that I had done, which was a kind of a combination of a variety show and stand-up comedy show, Jeff Murray, who was running Theater, asked me to do a night, and he wanted it to be a holiday show. And he wanted it to be, instead of just a show that was, a presentational show, he wanted it to be kind of interactive and kind of more of a fun type of idea. So I thought of that idea that we were doing with the Girly Magazine Party, which was kind of like a TV show, and people were watching this show and happened. I thought of it being a show that would be a party. And so when I was brainstorming with other people, we came up with the idea of it being a party at a insurance agent's office in a little town in Iowa, because it's kind of based on where I came from. And then my co-creator, Joe Keys, who is a very funny stand-up comedian and actor, he was from Pipestone, Minnesota, which was another small town just across the border from Iowa. So we kind of came up with this little town called Neuterberg, Iowa. And that was the basis of the first show. It was kind of an improvised show. So we had this character of Bob Finhead, who has his insurance office, and Joe played Joe Walker, the sheriff in town. And we had different people from town come into the party, and we pretty much improvised the whole show. We kind of had this idea of what would happen. We got together to talk about it, but it wasn't really a rehearsed show. It was just kind of improvised. And we had a band in the show, and it went really well. It was, because it was improvised, it had some, it was a little rough around the edges, but we liked the idea. And so then we started developing that. We did a few more series of shows in that spring where we would improvise for like an hour and a half. And sometimes we didn't know how it was going to end. We had an idea of, well, when we get to an hour and a half, we'll tell the person who's running the lights to cue up the tornado sounds, and we'll have a tornado come to town, and that'll be the end of the show. So through those improvised shows, we wrote a script, and then we've kind of been working with that script over the years. The show started at the holidays, and then it was running in the spring, so it was just kind of a generic party, but it kind of settled back into the holidays, and that's when it became what it is today. It's kind of a holiday tradition, and we have people that come every year to see it. We have, it's really fun.
Well, can you go a little more into the story arc and the main characters that you have in the play?
Yeah, so the story arc is that Bob Finhead is a frustrated insurance agent. He really wants to be something bigger. He has this dream to be an inventor, because he wants to change the world with his inventions, even though his inventions are pretty harebrained. And he wants to get out of town, and he wants to go to this inventing college in the big city of Des Moines, Iowa. And so his best friend, Joe, Sheriff Joe, doesn't want him to leave town because he's afraid of change. He doesn't want any change. He wants everything to stay the way it is. So that's kind of the arc. And Bob is having an affair with the mayor's wife, Margie Mincer, and so he's trying to figure that relationship out. And Mayor Roy, he has, without tipping it too much, he has some secrets in his life, so he doesn't, the relationship is kind of between he and his wife is very tenuous, and Bob is frustrated that Margie won't just be with him. And so Bob just kind of wants to get out of town. And the other characters that are in town that come to the party are LaDonna and Lavoris Johnson. They're the richest farmers in the county. They're these twin single spinster, I guess is the word to use, farmers that are very conservative. And they come, and then another character that shows up is Marty. He's the town handyman, and he's kind of a stoner character. And then we have a visit from Carol, who's the minister's wife. She comes in to drop off some napkins, and she announces that she's going to go to the Lutheran talent show, or the Lutheran church, and she's going to sing a song at the talent show. So we all get her to sing a song, and she's she's very shy, and that turns into a very it's a very entertaining moment in the show when she sings her song. And then the other character that comes in at the beginning of the play is Elwyn Bewey, who was a person that they grew up in the town, and for some reason didn't get along with everybody, and they picked on him, and they pretty much bullied him, and he got out of town and became very successful. And he's a multimillionaire, and he's coming back to town to visit, and he wants to he has some agenda. It comes clear why he's in town, but he comes back, and that brings up a lot of memories and uncovers a lot of old wounds. And so he has to work through that, and we all have to work through that. And then our last character that comes into the play is Brandy, who's how do I say that? She's the woman in town that's always hanging out at the bar that she always wants Sheriff Joe to put her in the handcuffs and take her down to and he says later, we'll talk about that later. And so she brings a little bit of spice to the party. So the party starts out very, very orderly and prim and proper, and by the end of the show, it's everything's come undone. There's a lot of drinks spilled and cheese balls on the floor, and a lot of secrets revealed.
So what do you want? This is an important question. What do you want the audience to get out of Bob's Holiday Office Party play production?
Well, we want them to have a great time. In the philosophical thing about theater, we want them to forget the troubles from the past and just enjoy themselves for the hour and a half or hour and 45 minutes of Bob's. So it's just a very silly show. I think I just get people that react to the show in such a nice way, and it's always fun to hear that. So I hope that they can get that out of it. I mean, it's a little bit outrageous. I mean, people come in and I'm always concerned that people might not that they're going to get offended, but if they, we make fun of a lot of things, and it can get really I call it like it's like a play version of The Hangover or something like that. It's kind of an R-rated play. But 2 weeks ago, I went to see a friend do stand-up comedy, and there was a woman that I was talking to afterwards, and she was looking at him. She goes, "You look familiar. What have you done?" And I really, since COVID, I haven't been doing too much performing. And I said, "Well, I don't know. I do comedy here and there." And she goes, "Do you do a play?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm getting ready to do a play, Bob's Holiday Office Party." And she goes, "You're Bob. Oh, you're Bob. Oh my God, I love that show." And she started telling everybody around the lobby area about our show. And she had come to see it with her brother had brought her to see it. And then she's bringing more people. And that's kind of, we find that happens with people that it's just kind of infectious, and then people come back year after year. And we'd really, I started noticing that maybe 10 years ago when I was over at the Hudson Theater, which is a small theater. And I went out to the lobby, and there were all these people standing there, and they were saying, "Oh, hi, it's so good to see you. This show is part of our holiday tradition." And I kind of heard that, but that's when it really started to hit me that people come back to see the show year after year. And in the past, we've had groups rent a bus, and come in a party bus. We've had people dress up sometimes they dress up in characters from the show, or they'll wear, those crazy Christmas sweaters. And so they really get into that. And it's just it's really, really wonderful to see that. And we did an event where, and we're going to do that this year, where we had an audience talk back, where we came out and talked to the audience after the show on a Saturday night. And I think it was Melissa who started asking people, she goes, "I've got a question. How many people have seen this show for the first time?" And there was a few people that raised their hand. "Now, how many have seen it 2 times?" And then a couple other people. "And how many have seen it more than 4 times?" And then more people raised their hand. "And how many people have seen it like 8 times?" And then like the whole crowd had like raised their hands. And I was amazed that people come, well, not amazed, but just really honored that people come back to see this time after time.
What are you looking forward when you're in the theater acting during the production? What do you enjoy as the actor during the production?
Well, when I'm doing this play, I kind of, because I look around and enjoy the moment of being on stage with these people. And I've had that over the time, with different, there's been a lot of actors that are really funny, and sometimes there'll be moments when I'm with somebody, I'm going, wow, this person is really a great performer and a great talent. And I'm just in awe of it. I've had some, so there's moments in the show where I'm just kind of watching all the circus go on around me. And I've done the show every year, every performance I've done the show. So I know the script so well. I know, and we do have, occasionally we'll have new people. Like this year, we're going to have new people. And it's really fun to work with different people. And I've learned to be really, we used to just say to people, "Oh, don't worry about it. If somebody is new to the show, don't worry about it. We know the show so well, nothing can go wrong. It'll be great." And then I realized that the new people are very, it's pretty stressful for them to come into a show like this, even though we know that they're going to be great. So we're trying to, over the past few years, we've become more aware of that and trying to give them as much time as they can so they feel comfortable. And so there'll be moments where things will get jumped around. Somebody will forget a line or jump over a whole chunk of things, and then we'll try to figure out if we need to get that information back into the show. If there's something that they dropped that needs to be brought out to further the story, or if it's just a joke that you can just move on from, you don't have to go back and catch it. So it's just a little bit of sitting back and watching the fun, and also keeping things moving, and just trying to keep the overall eye on the show. I'm not saying it's like directing it; it's just trying to keep it going, because we have a great director with Matt Roth, who I just love working with. And when we were rehearsing last night, it was kind of like people were asking me questions, and I was going, "No, we have a director. Let him." So we're remounting things, and we're saying, "Oh, last year I stood over here and did this," and Matt will say, "Well, you don't have to. We don't have to do it that way. Whatever you feel, whatever feels right." And Matt he's a great director, because he has just a sense of calmness about him, and he really brings things out. He makes you want to bring things out.
Why should the theater goers attend the production of Bob's Holiday Office Party? Why should or must? Why do they have to attend?
I think people must come to get on the Bob's train and find out what it's about. Over the years, we've had people that there were some actors that would come up to see our show on a Sunday night after they had done the Christmas Carol down at South Coast Repertory. And I've learned that after a few years, that it was kind of their tradition. So they would do their show. I think it was I don't know if it was like after their last show on a matinee, and they would rush up to see our show. And that guy, his name is Don Took, was an actor in the Christmas Carol. And I got to know him. And one year I was in June, I was in New York City, and I was on the subway. I'm just riding the subway like you do in New York. And this guy who was sitting down in the chair, or in the seat at a subway. They don't have chairs in the subway, but the seat. He leaned over to me, and I was standing there like holding onto the strap or the pole. He leaned over to me and he goes, "Is there going to be a Bob's Holiday Office Party this year?" And I went, "What? Who are you?" And it was Don Took, and he was this actor from the South Coast Rep. That was really fun. So I'm thinking of the people that have come over the years. Matt Groening, the creator of The Simpsons, is a fan of the show. He's come almost every year, and he heard about the show because a friend of his who teaches theater over at Occidental College at the theater department would bring his students, and brought Matt one year. And so Matt comes back to see the show. And then, there's just, I'm mentioning people that are actors, but there's just the everyday people that write me. I always get emails around the early fall or late summer about where's the show going to be this year. It's wonderful, and it's kind of like, so I'm going to do it again this year, I guess. I don't know if I'll ever stop.
Anything else about the play you want to mention?
Well, I think the thing about the play is that it's kind of about a small town. I mean, it's all about a small town and the community and the characters, and they all, even though they're different characters and they kind of have their arguments, there's a real sense of community to the town, and that's part of the arc of the show. But I would hear people talk about it afterwards, whether people are from even the East Coast or the West Coast, they can relate to these small town characters. And I even had a friend who was a director who is from New York City, and he was really, there was something he said about those people that's just kind of a heartwarming story about how they feel about each other. And hopefully we're trying to get that apart, especially in these times, as character Joe says, in these times of pain and suffering. We can get together and have a sense of community. So that's kind of the arc of it. It's kind of a little bit of It's a Wonderful Life, that kind of a positive story. It's all the mayhem and the spilled drinks and the cheese balls. Well, my name is Rob Elk, and I play Bob Finhead in Bob's Holiday Office Party. And the show is running Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So that's 9 shows only. And you can go to www.bobsofficeparty.com for tickets.
Thank you for listening or watching this podcast episode of Stage Explorations. To learn more about the theater creative and more theater creatives and artists on Stage Explorations, go to www.stageexplorations.com. Once again, that is www.stageexplorations.com. There is no space between stage and explorations. You may find more videos, podcasts, and information about this theater creative and other theater creatives and artists on Stage Explorations YouTube channel. Looking forward to seeing you in the theater.